WWE had its Bash in Berlin, PLE, today on Saturday. They're going to tell you that it was an amazing sellout crowd. They're going to tell you guys in the post-show how we had gate-breaking records. They're going to tell you all the normal things that we say. What I'm going to tell you is, it was a little bit of a house show style PLE for the WWE today. Later tonight, we'll talk about how that came to be. There was a small card. We got a sample size of some feuds, but we got some really good wrestling matches in there. So I'm not complaining, but I am going to say it was smaller than life. And it wasn't the large spectacle that was SummerSlam that we came off of. But is it really supposed to be? We're going to get into all of that and more. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard, back at it again. This is the results and thoughts Bash at Berlin. We start out, the first match on the card was, the Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens match opening the show. I want to say, even though this was a smaller show and a smaller card, this crowd was definitely large in personality. Some would say there's a cult of personality throughout the show, but ultimately we got the SmackDown World title with an amazing crowd, really behind Cody and Kevin all the way. And they were very in sync, they were very into this, and it made the matchup look really good. The matchup might have been just average in front of an American crowd or a crowd that's a little more not as vocal, but it did make it feel and add to the, atmosphere that they were portraying here. Rhodes was defending, and he ultimately said he had a bad knee coming into the match. And Kevin ultimately playing into the will he, won't he storyline of the evening. Will he ultimately go back into being a heel in his bad ways, or is he Cody's friend? Ultimately, he did whisper into the ear of Cody Rhodes on Friday night, and that was shared with us in commentary, that it was Kevin Owens saying, remember, you wanted this. Kevin Owens, good athlete, good fun work here. Cody, they jived really well in their matchup. We get some kicks to the face. We get a lot of back and forth trading shots in this one. We get a lot of trading super kick shots moments in the matchup. We get Cody's fall down, punch up to the face moment. We get a moment playing into the storyline of the knee where Cody jumps on the ropes, and when he jumps to the top rope, his knee buckles and he falls to the outside. The referee checks on him. Kevin Owens comes out and checks on him, and then ultimately continues the match. You can tell he was struggling with wanting to just kick him in the back of the knee while he was down. Ultimately, we do get some stunner attempts in this matchup. We get a Cody cutter, but also we get a lot going through, and we get the Crossroads being hit at the 23-minute, 14-second mark to retain the title at Bash at the Berlin. In a very long match, but it was a good match, and the crowd really did, like I said, add value. Rhodes basically then they congratulate each other, and at that point we get the victory, we get the celebration, and we get on to the next matchup. What I do wonder is, where do we go from here? I do think this was a one-off match between Kevin and Cody. It did feel like a house show style match that we've been thrown together for a one night only in Bash in Berlin. And that's what we got with the opening segment. Not bad quality wrestling, but they told a little story, but ultimately did not feel like nobody was believing that Cody would lose this title. Let's go on. We got the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship in play. We get a little history on that. We get Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Most dominant tag team. Two superstars in the making. Ultimately, will they get their titles back? It's the Mega Powers not quite exploding, but will they be able to work together? We get a little play into that with Jade Cargill getting her own entrance in full, followed by Bianca Belair getting her entrance in full, showing they did not come out as a tag team. So are they on the same page? We'll find out. We then get Alba Fire and Isla Dawn coming out with the same music, the same tag team. And ultimately, we know it's a mismatch, but we also know it's divide and conquer for this current champions against Cargill and Belair. We get a lot of back and forth. We get some great spots in this one. We get Belair really, you can tell she's taking lead in the onboarding in the training of Jade Cargill in WWE. Never bad to have a buddy, and I think it's smart to keep Cargill in a tag team format, letting her learn the WWE brand and ropes. And she didn't look bad here. She hit her spots. She, had her moments. I really like the green hair of Cargill. I enjoy that, that green hair with the blonde hair mixed in. Ultimately, Bianca Belair, speaking of hair, has a moment where it's getting tugged on by the opponents, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. And then ultimately being used against her in every match. Pulling her off the ropes, spots like that. We do get a couple power moves. We do get later in the matchup, like a double gorilla press plants by Fire, allowing Cargill to hit the Dominator Belair onto her for a 2. The Swanton backbreaker combination doesn't work. Dawn is holding her knee again, and Cargill throws her into the barricade. That leaves Fire to get spine-bustered and assisted with a German suplex for the pin. At the 11-minute, 57-second minute of the match, we have new champions, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. We gotta give them the titles back here. Even though I would have liked to see Dawn and Fire get their chance to kind of continue, I do believe that the title is going to be a little bit better going into the WrestleMania build season on these two, as they'll have a reason to explode. And I believe they will eventually possibly even have this matchup as early as Royal Rumble. I feel like their titles could explode, and they could either lose the titles and challenge each other for a Mania match, or have the match earlier at a Rumble and have the titles explode them apart. But either way, we're going to get a story here, and we're going to get Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. It's only a matter of time. But for now, we'll get some title defenses. And also for now, I want to tell you guys, if you like WWE, hit that like button. Helps us out both. Helps you guys see wrestling. Helps me and my algorithm. But ultimately, just thank you guys for being a new subscriber if you are. And if you subscribed with me for a long time, I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't considered doing it, thanks again, guys. We got the leather strap match right up next. Kind of in the middle of the card here on the smaller card, but very well placed. Just after a tag match, we got the leather strap match. The idea of you have to touch all 4 corners of the ring in order to win. So you can hit your opponent with a finisher in this one. But if you're not able to carry your opponent and drag them from corner to corner, then it's a no-go. If you can only hit the finisher and not drag them along. These two, also the strap can come into play, and it will. Anything goes in this one. We've got lights set up on the corners of the matchup. We've got the red one for McIntyre, the green one for Punk. It kind of shows us who's going to win this one. The strap is, again, we get into the matchup, and this was the right feud at the right moment at the right time. Very good matchup for a follow-up matchup to their initial encounter. And ultimately at SummerSlam. And you just couldn't help. My prediction was that CM Punk would get the win here, driving McIntyre even more nuts. And that's what we are going to get. We get McIntyre hitting his Claymores. McIntyre comes out actually attacking Punk right out the beginning, while Punk is celebrating to the crowd in his entrance. Great move by McIntyre. I have been so amazingly drawn into the Drew McIntyre character ever since his work with Punk way back at WrestleMania. This has got my candidacy for maybe feud of the year, surprisingly. Even though Punk has been injured and not been able to participate, Drew McIntyre has found ways to keep this feud going without even having an opponent in the ring all the time. And I can't say enough about him being the real deal. Punk is there, he's doing his job, he's hitting the GTSs, but then he's kind of figuring out about hitting the corners. Punk, they mentioned, has more experience in strap matches. Something that Drew McIntyre doesn't. We're softening the blow for McIntyre taking a loss here with that kind of commentary. Gotta be careful. Punk has a cut over his eye at one point, so McIntyre hammers away, and Punk comes up with a running knee into the corner and a bulldog. The table is set up later, which then takes the better part of allowing McIntyre to come back with the Claymore. McIntyre hits 3 turnbuckles, tapping them 1, 2, 3, only for Punk to go straight to the floor and pull him face first into the corner where there was a chair previously set up, breaking up the win. Back up, McIntyre throws him through the table at ringside that was set up previously for the huge crash. Punk gets back in, so McIntyre carries him around with Punk hitting the same 3 buckles that he is. Fighting over the 4th buckle, and the referee had enough and resets both counts to where they'd have to tap all 4 again. Punk grabs a sharpshooter and McIntyre taps, but remember, submission is not a factor here in this one. Blacking out from the pain. That basically gets us 2 turnbuckle touches, but McIntyre cuts him off and hits a neck breaker for a reset. McIntyre kips up, and now we get a serious as he whips out the infamous Dollar General bracelet that everybody jokes about. That means so much to CM Punk. A Claymore drops Punk, and he comes back up with the GTS. Back to even again. Punk touches a buckle, hits a GTS, touches a buckle, hits a GTS, touches a buckle, hits a GTS, steals the bracelet back that he needed. He's got the bracelet on his arm, and he taps the 4th turnbuckle at the 19-minute, 10-second mark for the win. Drew McIntyre takes the loss here. CM Punk gets the win, driving Drew probably even more nuts. But is that the end? No, it's not. We get Drew McIntyre in a post-match interview later in the evening, talking about the most important thing to him right now is to go find donuts. And then after that, he's going to keep his eye on the World Championship match later tonight, where it's Gunther and Randy Orton. And Punk has got his eyes set on that. And I'll talk about where I think that's going in the final thoughts. But for now, he's going to go find those donuts. And as he finds donuts, we are going to go into our mixed tag match. That's where we're going to go find the Terror Twins versus the Judgment Day. 2 great names for tag teams. Mixed tag team action. Daddy Dom and Liv versus Mommy and the former world champion, Damian. Damian Priest goes off on Dominic in the corner to start the fans getting their approval in this one. Mysterio kicked in the face. Remember, the real story here started really with Dom and Rhea, but it's really about Rhea and Liv, isn't it? That Women's World Championship looming in the background of this one. They have a great way in the last couple of years of shadowing and not making it a one-on-one match for that Women's Championship. They've done a really good job with Rhea's championship reign and now Liv's championship reign of having it in the background while better storytelling is happening through different promos. Priest and Rhea had a good promo on Raw. I'll link that up above here. But ultimately, we then get some back and forth. We get something, we get some bombs. We get a double Razor's Edge moment where Rhea and Priest look at each other holding their respective opponents up, guy on guy, girl on girl, and they get that boom right to the mat. And then we get Dominic goes to hit a 619, a frog splash to get a 2 count. But ultimately, Dom, we get interference from the Judgment Day coming in. We get Finn Balor hitting Priest. That feud's not going away anytime soon, is it? We also get Carlito appearance. But ultimately, Dominic has to save Balor from the south of heaven as he gets dropped with a clothesline. And then leaves Ripley to the Riptide on Morgan at the 14-minute mark. Your winners, Rhea Ripley, the Terror Twins, and Damian Priest. The Terror Twins get the win, and this story is not going away anytime soon, but it's the next step in the evolution of this feud. Good storytelling here. I definitely, feel like it is the house show vibe that kind of kept pushing. But we're going to keep pushing on to our World Heavyweight Championship match, and the reason we're all come to this one in Berlin, and that is ultimately Gunther versus Randy Orton. Gunther and Randy Orton. Gunther comes out, tries the power bomb at one point, but an armbar and gives out again. A lot of technical matchup back and forth in this one. We get attempts that have the same results. We get back and forth. Orton hits an RKO out of nowhere in the middle of the match. We get a bit of a breathing moments there with some rest holds. They go outside. Remember, this matchup was meant to go long. Berlin was meant to have Gunther in the main event for a very long time, and that's what they got. They even got Ludwig Kaiser. It was a nice touch in the beginning to do his ring announcement for Gunther. But continuing in the match, the sleeper goes on. So Orton drives him into the corner, eventually breaking up, and that's fine, with Gunther, who chops him into the back and grabs the sleeper again, allowing some elbows to the neck. Orton breaks it up, so Gunther elbows away again and grabs the sleeper again. And Orton is finally out. Bam! Off to night-night land as the 34-minute mark kicks in, and we get Gunther to retain his world championship against a legend killer in legendary Berlin. Good match here. I like their style. Even though it was a slower, methodical paced match, I thought the legend of Randy Orton and the living legend of Gunther continuing his championship streak and moving ahead with that world championship. It was the right call. Gunther is looking very dominant. In fact, he didn't have to pin or knock him completely and dominate Randy Orton, but he was able to go the distance with him and get the upper hand. It was a very, very smart storytelling as we go to what's next for Gunther. I believe this was going to be a one-off matchup. Again, kind of on a one night only in Berlin. Hey, what's not one night only is the fans of ProWrestling.com. Me and my tag mates, or stable mates, I should say at this point over there, Wrestling Fans Inside. We do shows every Sunday. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a future show. Check us out over there. Got other great podcasters like Ted's Talk, etc. Let's go ahead and let's get in to the final thoughts. Final thoughts for this one. We got a great opening crowd action matchup with Cody and Kevin. A little bit of story mixed in, but ultimately I do ask, was the match really that good? If you watched it on mute, that's a good test of any matchup. Can you watch it on the mute button on, and could you say this was a great match? I like the interaction, I like what it is, but I do feel the crowd added a little bit for us there in Berlin. We then get an overall, tag match that did its job and pushed the titles, but it really didn't feel like it needed to be a PLE type match. But ultimately, this card tonight, we get a 5-match card in a PLE. Now, none of the matches seemed rushed, but I also feel like 5 is a very low amount, and it made me feel like a house show. It felt like I was watching a WWE house show in Berlin, where we would just get a little sample, but not really a lot of backstage segments, not a lot of substance throughout the night. It felt like a very small house show that, I keep saying it, but the WWE was putting on in Germany. And that's probably what it was. It wasn't going to, it would push storylines forward, but there would be nothing really definitive that happened on the night. I mean, yeah, you could say the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, that matchup, while it was worthy of watching, I would give that a look. But reality is, it's just going to lead to something bigger. And don't let CM Punk fool you about going for the world title. I believe that championship that he may get against Gunther will be on a Monday Night Raw, in which Drew McIntyre will cost Punk, causing a setup for a Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, where we'll get our final payoff in this matchup. Well, guys, those are my results and thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments below. Did you like Bash in Berlin? Was it too long? Was it too short? Did it feel just right? I'm going to get out of here. And good night.